The history of the Palace of Westminster. The first Palace of Westminster was built in an uninhabited and swampy area in 1042, but it had nothing to do with the modern Palace of Westminster. After 45 years, Westminster Hall was added to the palace, a part of the castle that has survived to this day, and its roof is the oldest medieval structure in England. It became a permanent meeting of the highest judicial authority in England at that time, the Supreme Court. In 1834, almost the entire palace of Westminster burned down. Charles Barry and Augustus Pugin were chosen as the architects of the new Palace of Westminster. The new palace was built in the neo-Gothic style for 48 years. The new palace has 11 courtyards, just over 100 staircases, corridors with a total length of more than 5 kilometers and 1,200 rooms. It fits seamlessly into modern London, although it would be more correct to say that modern London is in harmony with the Palace of Westminster. Time for interesting facts. No animals are allowed in the Palace of Westminster, with the exception of guide dogs. So there are a lot of mice here. Horses and police dogs may be allowed in the special occasions. The building has preserved many echoes of the past. For example, in some rooms there are still hooks designed for handling swords, and you can also see the floor markings on which the swords were placed. And the most grandiose, the area of the Palace of Westminster is 112,476 square meters. The history of Big Ben. The first architectural structure on the site of the current Big Ben was erected in 1288. The tower was located on the grounds of the Palace of Westminster. The construction was carried out by Ralph Hegemon, head of the Collegium of the Supreme Court at the Royal Court. But in 1834 this tower almost all burned down in a fire. This tower was reconstructed in the well-known Big Ben. Originally, Big Ben was the name of the bell. It's believed that the bell was named Big Ben in honor of Sir Benjamin Hall, the curator of construction works. Later, the tower itself was called Big Ben. The official name of the tower since 2012 is Elizabeth Tower. The tower was built by the English architect August Pugin in the neo-Gothic style in 1859. The tower clock was launched on May 31, 1859. The clock was designed by Sir Edmund Beckett and astronomer Royal George Airy. The creation of the clock was entrusted to the watchmaker Edward John Dent, after whose death in 1853. The construction was headed by his adopted son Frederick Dent. Frederick completed the work in 1854. Time for interesting facts. On each side of the tower, directly below the clock, there is an inscription in Latin, meaning God, save our Queen Victoria. On the perimeter of the tower is engraved the inscription, Praise the Lord. Since the tower was built without taking into account the possible underground work in this area, meaning the laying of the metro line, the angle of its inclination shifted by 2.2 centimeters. Inside the building there are 334 steps, climbing which you can explore the surrounding area of London from a height of 62 meters. In order to prevent the lag of the clock, which began immediately after the installation of the heaviest mechanism, a coin of 1 penny is placed on one of the hands. The coin slows down the movement of the pendulum by 0.4 seconds and accelerates its movement by 2.5 seconds per day. The annual path of the Big Ben minute hand is 190 kilometers. The length of the minute hand is 4.2 meters. The length of the hour hand is 2.7 meters. For some time, the clock tower was the place of imprisonment of recalcitrant parliamentarians. The history of Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace was originally known as Buckingham House and was built for John Sheffield, first Duke of Buckingham. It was acquired by King George III in 1762 as a private residence. Over the next 75 years, architects John Nash and Edward Bloor built 3 more buildings similar to Buckingham House. All together form a square in the plan, in the center of which is a large courtyard. The palace was officially declared the main residence of the British monarchs in 1837. In front of the palace gates there is a monument in honor of Queen Victoria. By 1853, the most spacious room of the palace was completed, the ballroom, which is 36 meters long and 18 meters wide. The art gallery is a hall with a length of 50 meters and a width of 8 meters, which houses all the Queen's art collection with works by Rembrandt and Rubens, Raphael and Leonardo da Vinci. Here are collected silverware sculptures in the originals of Van Dyck, Michelangelo, Canaletto. Time for interesting facts. Buckingham Palace has its own post office, cinema, swimming pool and police station. During the Second World War, George VI and Queen Elizabeth refused to leave Buckingham Palace, which made the residence of the monarchs the most attractive target for bombing. The palace suffered 9 direct bomb hits, one of which destroyed the clock tower. Currently, the palace includes 775 rooms. There are 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest rooms, 188 staff rooms, 92 offices and 72 bathrooms. It occupies an area of 20 hectares, of which 17 hectares is a garden. Buckingham Palace Gardens are the largest private gardens in London. There is a legend that on Christmas Canon, the ghost of a monk appears in Buckingham Palace. By clanking his chains loudly, he terrifies those present. The history of St. Paul's Cathedral. There are 5 known cathedrals of St. Paul. The first wooden was built in 604 and burned down in 675. In 685 a stone cathedral was erected which was destroyed by the Vikings in 961. In 962 the third cathedral was built, which burned down in 1087. The fourth was laid out in 1086 and burned down in 1666 during the Great Fire of London. The fifth cathedral was designed by the architect Christopher Wren. The work was started in 1675 and completed in 1708. Christopher Wren in his construction tried to combine the features of medieval Romano-Gothic construction and elements of French classicism. St. Paul's Cathedral does not repeat any of the churches of the world. It was conceived as a symbol of the opposition of the Anglican Church to the Roman Catholic world. St. Paul's Cathedral is the burial place of almost 200 notable citizens of the UK. The first to be buried in the cathedral was its architect, Christopher Wren. The most notable people who rest in the cathedral are poet Nahum Tate, Admiral Nelson, Duke of Wellington, composer Sir Arthur Sullivan, Colonel Thomas Edward Lawrence, bacteriologist Sir Alexander Fleming, painter and sculptor Henry Moore. There is no monument on the grave of Christopher Wren, and only an epitaph in Latin is given. Lector si monumentum requiris circumspice. Reader, if you are looking for a monument, just look around. The dome of the cathedral in many respects repeats the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Thank you for your attention.